I never believed in myths until the day I drowned and woke up breathing. The storm had come from nowhere, a wall of black water that swallowed our research vessel whole. I remember the cold, the pressure crushing my chest, the certainty of death, then nothing. When consciousness returned, I was lying on black sand that glittered like crushed diamonds under a sun that burned violet in a sky too dark to be Earth's. My clothes were shredded, my skin covered in salt and strange phosphorescent marks that pulsed with my heartbeat. I tried to stand, but collapsed, muscles screaming. That was when I heard it, the song. It came from everywhere and nowhere, a sound that bypassed my ears and vibrated directly in my bones. Beautiful, terrible, a melody that made me want to weep and laugh and run toward the source all at once. I crawled toward the water's edge, compelled by something older than reason, and that was when I saw her. She rose from the waves like a nightmare given form and desire. Her skin was pale as moonlight, but it shifted with patterns that resembled scales, iridescent and hypnotic. Her hair was black as the deepest ocean trench, floating around her head as though she was still submerged. But it was her eyes that paralyzed me. They were entirely black. No whites, no iris, just endless darkness that seemed to contain galaxies. When she smiled, her teeth were too sharp, too many. She was beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, in the way a storm is beautiful, deadly and perfect, and utterly beyond human comprehension. She spoke, and though her lips moved, the words appeared directly in my mind, like thoughts that were not my own. "You survived. How curious." I tried to respond, but could only make a gasping sound. She moved closer, not walking but gliding, her lower body still obscured by the surf. When the water receded, I saw why. Below her waist, her form became something else, a powerful tail that split into multiple flowing appendages, each tipped with something like fins or perhaps feathers, I could not tell. They moved independently, creating patterns in the sand. "You do not belong here, mortal, yet the sea delivered you to us." She tilted her head, studying me with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "The mothers will want to see you." Before I could ask what that meant, she sang a single note. The beach erupted with movement. They came from the water, from caves in the cliff face. From behind rocks I had not noticed, dozens of them, hundreds, all female, all beautiful, all wrong. Each was unique in her particular horror. Some had features almost human except for the wrong number of eyes or mouths that opened too wide. Others were more obviously inhuman, their bodies mixing aspects of women with sea creatures, birds, reptiles, things I had no name for. They moved in a coordinated swarm surrounding me, their collective song rising to a pitch that made my vision blur. I was lifted, not roughly, but with an inexorable strength, and carried inland. I tried to struggle, but my body would not obey. Whatever those marks on my skin were, they seemed to be draining my will to resist. We passed through a jungle that should not exist. Trees with bark like coral, leaves that pulsed with bioluminescence, flowers that opened to reveal eyes that tracked our movement. The air was thick with salt and something else, something that smelled of copper and flowers and decay, all mixed together. The path led up, climbing through the vegetation until we reached a structure that took my breath away. It was a palace, or perhaps a temple, carved directly from the volcanic rock of the island's interior. The architecture was wrong, angles that hurt to look at too long, columns that seemed to support nothing yet held up everything. Every surface was covered in carvings depicting scenes I could barely comprehend. Women with wings, women with tails, women consuming men, women giving birth to things that were not human. And everywhere, repeatedly, the image of a great tree whose roots plunged into the ocean and whose branches held stars. They brought me to a central chamber open to the sky. The floor was a pool of water so still it looked like black glass. Around its edge stood 7 figures, and I knew immediately these were different from the others. They were larger, more refined, their forms more stable. These were the mothers. The one who had found me pushed me forward gently but firmly until I knelt at the pool's edge. I had no choice. My legs simply gave out under the weight of their combined presence. The mothers regarded me in silence for a long moment. Then the one in the center spoke, and her voice was like the deep ocean current, irresistible and ancient. "We are dying." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. I found my voice, though it came out as a whisper. What does that have to do with me? She descended from her place, moving with liquid grace until she stood before me. When she reached out and touched my face, her fingers were cold but not unpleasant. "We are the Sirens, the last of our kind. Once we numbered in the thousands, we ruled the seas and skies. We sang ships to their doom and danced in the wreckage. We were feared and worshipped, but we made a terrible mistake." Her expression was unreadable, but I sensed genuine sorrow beneath her words. "We rejected the males of our species. We were arrogant, believing ourselves superior, needing them only for breeding, and even that we resented. So we killed them, every last one. We thought we could continue without them, that our magic would sustain us. We were wrong." Another mother spoke, her voice higher, almost childlike. "Without genetic diversity, we began to fade. Our young are born weak, malformed. Most die within days. Those who survive are sterile. We have not had a successful birth in 3 generations. I felt sick. You are murderers. You destroyed yourselves. The center mother did not deny it. Yes, we were fools, and now we face extinction. But then you arrived." She gestured to the pool, and the water rippled, forming images. I saw myself drowning, saw the moment my ship went down. But I also saw something else. A light inside me, golden and bright, that pulsed in time with my heart. "You carry something we lost. Your kind evolved alongside us once, long ago. You share our ancient blood, diluted but present. You are compatible." Horror crashed over me like a wave. "No, no, you cannot be suggesting. We do not suggest. We decree." The water in the pool began to glow, rising up in tendrils that wrapped around my limbs. I felt them sink into my skin, cold and invasive, rewriting something fundamental inside me. "You will stay here. You will mate with our chosen. You will father the new generation that will ensure our survival. You should be honored. You will be the salvation of an entire species." I screamed then, fought against the bindings, but it was useless. The magic was too strong, and I was too weak. When the process was complete, the tendrils retreated, leaving me gasping on the stone floor. The marks on my skin had changed, no longer just phosphorescent, but burned in like brands, forming patterns that moved and shifted. "These are the marks of the chosen seed," the Central Mother said. "All will know what you are, all will desire you, but only those we select may have you." I was dragged away to a chamber that would become my prison. It was not unpleasant as prisons go. The walls were smooth volcanic glass that reflected the bioluminescent lights like stars. There was a pool of fresh water, fruit I did not recognize but found edible, a place to sleep. But the door was sealed with magic I could feel but not see, and when I tried to approach it, pain lanced through the marks on my skin until I backed away. Days passed, or what I assumed were days. Time moved strangely in that place. Sometimes the sky was violet, sometimes it was deep red, sometimes there were multiple suns. I wondered if I had gone mad, if I was still drowning and this was some oxygen-deprived hallucination. But the hunger was real, the pain was real, and when they came for me, that was real too. The first was one of the younger Sirens, her form still shifting between states as though she had not yet decided what shape to take. She entered my chamber with a mixture of fear and anticipation on her too beautiful face. She sang softly, and I felt the marks on my skin respond, heating up, pulling me toward her. I resisted at first, fought the compulsion, but the magic was too strong. It was not violent. They did not force me in that way. But neither was it consensual. I was a prisoner being used for a purpose, my will subsumed by ancient magic and desperate need. When it was over, she left without speaking, but I saw something in her expression. Hope. It happened again and again over the following weeks. Different sirens, different castes, all chosen by the mothers for their genetic potential. I learned their hierarchy during those endless days. The lowest were the singers, those who lured ships and hunted in packs. Above them were the dancers, who controlled weather and waves. Higher still were the weavers, who worked magic with their songs and created the spells that bound the island. And above all were the mothers, the seven who ruled and remembered what the Sirens once were. Between the visits, I was alone with my thoughts, and that was almost worse. I mourned my old life, the research I would never complete, the family who would think me dead. I raged against my captivity, spending hours hurling myself at the magical barrier until I collapsed from exhaustion. And slowly, insidiously, I began to understand my captors. They were monsters, yes, but they were also a dying people watching their extinction approach with terrifying certainty. They had committed genocide against their own males and now faced the consequences. There was a tragic poetry to it that I hated myself for recognizing, and there was something else, something I dared not admit even to myself. The marks were changing me. Not just physically, though I could feel that too, my body becoming stronger, more resilient, healing faster than should be possible, but mentally, emotionally. I found myself listening for their songs, anticipating their visits. The revulsion I initially felt was being replaced by something more complicated, a confused tangle of desire and resentment and connection I did not want to acknowledge. One night, or day, I could no longer tell. The central mother came to my chamber alone. This had not happened before. She entered in silence, her form more solid than I had ever seen it, almost human except for the eyes and the faint shimmer of scales along her neck and shoulders. She was, I realized with discomfort, stunningly beautiful when she chose to be. "We need to talk," she said, settling gracefully on the edge of my pool. "You have questions. I have seen them in your eyes." I was so starved for actual conversation that I forgot my anger for a moment. Where am I? Not your world. We exist in a place between places, anchored to your reality but separate from it. The island is real, but it exists slightly out of phase. That is why no one finds us unless we wish it. How is that possible? She smiled faintly. Your people forgot the true nature of reality. You think it is fixed, solid, singular. It is not. There are layers, dimensions, frequencies. We learned to navigate them long before your species built its first fire. Why me? Why not just use magic to fix yourselves? Magic has limits, she said, and for the first time I heard genuine frustration in her voice. We tried everything, spells to rewrite our biology, rituals to resurrect our males from their bones. We even attempted to create males from our own flesh. Everything failed. The damage we did was too fundamental, too tied to our nature. We need fresh genetic material, and it must be compatible. Your kind carries the echo of what we were. You are rare. Perhaps 1 in 10 million of your people has the potential. The storm that brought you here was not coincidence. We have been searching for decades. You murdered hundreds of ships, thousands of people. Yes, she said simply, without shame or apparent remorse. We did what we must to survive. I wanted to hate her, but I was too tired. What happens when you have your new generation? When I have served my purpose? You will be honored, she said, revered. You will live the rest of your life in comfort. Your children will know your name. There will be songs about you for 10,000 years, and I will still be a prisoner. She did not deny it. Yes. I laughed, a broken sound. At least you are honest. She reached out and touched the marks on my arm. They pulsed under her fingers. These tie you to us now. Even if we released you, even if you returned to your world, you would never be free. Part of you will always belong to us. You will hear our songs in your dreams. You will crave the ocean. You will search for us without meaning to. The change is permanent. I pulled away from her touch. Then I am already dead, just a ghost pretending to be alive. "You are more alive than you have ever been," she said fiercely. "You have been given a gift, power, purpose, immortality through your children. Most of your kind live their entire lives without meaning, without impact. You will reshape an entire species, remake a civilization. That is not death, that is apotheosis." She left me with those words, and I spent the next period of time, hours or days, in a haze of despair. But slowly, like a seed planted in dark soil, something shifted in my mind. She was right, at least partially. I would never escape. The magic had changed me too fundamentally, but that did not mean I was powerless. If I was to be the father of their return, perhaps I could influence what they became. The Sirens were monsters because they had chosen to be, had embraced cruelty and predation. But what if their children learned something different? What if I could teach them? I began to speak to them when they came to me. At first they were confused, unused to their breeding stock attempting conversation, but gradually they began to respond. I learned their names, their hopes, their fears. Issa was a singer who dreamed of becoming a weaver. Vrel had lost 3 sisters to the genetic degradation. Kiss had been alive for over 300 years and remembered when males still existed. Each had a story. Each was more than just a monster. And slowly, carefully, I began to plant seeds. Stories of cooperation instead of predation, tales of balance and coexistence, questions about whether survival required cruelty or could be achieved through other means. Some dismissed me as mad, others listened with curiosity. A few seemed genuinely moved, and then the first eggs were laid. The Sirens did not give live birth like humans. Instead, they created clutches of eggs that were kept in special chambers deep in the temple, tended by the weavers and watched constantly for signs of life. I was not allowed to see them at first, but I could hear the excitement, the hope, the fear in the songs that echoed through the halls. Then came the night they brought me to the hatching chamber. The Central Mother herself led me there, her expression unreadable. "You should see what you have wrought," she said. The chamber was vast, warm, filled with pools of luminescent water. In the center, arranged on beds of some soft organic material, were dozens of eggs. They were beautiful, opalescent, each one the size of a human head and covered in patterns that swirled like oil on water, and they were moving. "Watch," the mother commanded. As I stood there, one of the eggs began to crack. A tiny claw emerged, then another. The shell fell away to reveal the creature inside, and my breath caught. It was perfect. A tiny siren, no larger than a human baby, but already alert and aware. Her skin was smooth, unmarked by deformity. Her eyes were bright and intelligent. She looked at me and chirped, a sound that stabbed directly into my heart. "She is healthy," the mother whispered, and I heard awe in her voice. Fully formed, strong, the first in 3 generations. And not just her. Look, around the chamber more eggs were hatching, dozens of them, and each revealed a healthy newborn, crying and reaching and alive. The weavers were weeping, even the stoic mothers showed emotion. "It is working," one of them said. "He is the key. We are saved." I should have felt triumph, or perhaps continued despair. Instead, I felt something more complicated. These children were innocent. They had not chosen their species or their nature. They deserved a chance at life. But what kind of life would they have? Would they be taught to be predators like their mothers? Or could they become something new? The Central Mother turned to me, and for the first time since I arrived, she bowed. "You have our gratitude, chosen seed. You have given us our future." But her expression shifted, became calculating, and now we need more. My stomach dropped. More. "Many more," she said. "A single successful clutch is not enough to save our species. We need hundreds, thousands. You will continue until we have secured our genetic future. And these children will need to be educated, raised properly. You will help with that as well." "So you are doubling my prison sentence," I said bitterly. "We are giving you influence," she countered. "You care what these young become. So do we. Work with us, guide us, help us raise them to be strong, wise, capable of surviving in a changing world. It was a trap, of course, a way to bind me more completely to their purpose, but it was also an opportunity. I thought of the stories I had shared, the seeds I had planted. If I could reach the mothers, perhaps I could reach the children more deeply. Perhaps I could change the sirens from within. I will help, I said slowly, but on conditions. She raised an eyebrow, intrigued. You are in no position to make demands. Neither are you, I said with more confidence than I felt. You need me, not just my genetics, but my cooperation. Children raised by resentful, defeated parents do not thrive. You know this. What do you want? Freedom to move around the island, access to the children as they grow, the ability to teach them what I think they need to know, not just what you want them to learn, and information. Full information about your history, your magic, everything. If I am to help shape your future, I need to understand your past. She considered for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Agreed, but there will be limits, guards, restrictions. And if you betray our trust, the pain we can inflict through those marks will seem like mercy compared to what we will do. I believe you. So we have an accord. Yes. She extended her hand, a surprisingly human gesture. I took it. Her skin was cold, but her grip was firm. The weeks that followed were strange, a blend of continued captivity and increasing freedom. I was allowed to explore the island under escort, and I learned its secrets. The jungle was cultivated, every plant placed deliberately to create a self-sustaining ecosystem. The cliffs housed generations of siren dead, their bones arranged in complex patterns that hummed with residual magic. The beach where I had arrived was one of many, each attuned to different frequencies to catch ships from different dimensions. And in the center of it all was the world tree, though they called it the singer's root. It was the source of their power, a massive organism that was neither plant nor coral nor anything from Earth. Its roots plunged miles deep into the dimensional substrate, drawing energy from the places between worlds. Its trunk was hollow, filled with chambers where the most sacred rituals were performed, and its branches reached up and up, disappearing into a sky that was no longer Earth's, connecting to other islands, other realities, other possibilities. They brought me to its base and showed me the truth. Once there were hundreds of these, the Central Mother explained, a network spanning countless worlds. Our people could travel anywhere, sing to anyone. We were the bridges between realities. But when we killed our males, when we broke the balance, the trees began to die. One by one they withered. Now only this one remains. And it too is dying. I could see it. Despite its size, despite the magic that pulsed through its structure, there was a wrongness to it. Branches that ended too abruptly, bark that flaked away to reveal something rotting beneath, a smell of decay that no amount of bioluminescence could disguise. How long does it have? Decades. Perhaps a century if we are fortunate. When it dies, this island dies. We lose our anchor between worlds. We become trapped wherever we are, unable to hunt, unable to sustain ourselves. We face extinction. Unless your children change that. She looked at me with those endless black eyes. Unless your children, with their hybrid vigor and fresh genetics, can learn to sing to the tree, heal it, regrow the network, become what we once were, but better, wiser. No pressure then, I said with dark humor. She almost smiled. Indeed, the children grew with unnatural speed, another aspect of siren biology I had not understood. Within months they were speaking, learning, forming personalities. I spent hours with them every day, teaching them language, mathematics, history of both their people and mine. They were brilliant, absorbing information at a rate that would have seemed impossible in human children. But they were also deeply, fundamentally other. Even the youngest had instincts that were alien to me. They were drawn to high places and deep water. They learned to sing before they learned to speak words. They competed viciously for dominance within their age group, and more than once I had to separate them before their play turned genuinely dangerous. I tried to temper these instincts, to teach empathy and cooperation, but I was fighting against millions of years of evolution. The best I could do was channel their nature into less destructive forms, teach them that strength could be used to protect as well as dominate, that hunting could be done ethically. Some took to these lessons better than others. There was one in particular, a daughter of Isi, who I had named Mira in a moment of sentimentality she had not objected to. Mira was different from her siblings. She was curious about everything, questioned everything, and showed a capacity for compassion that stunned me. When a younger sibling injured herself, Mira was the first to help. When food was scarce during a storm, she shared without being asked. "She is weak," some of the older Sirens muttered. "She will not survive." But the mothers watched her with interest. "That one is special," the central mother told me one day as we observed Mira teaching a group of younger children to sing in harmony. "She thinks like you do, sees possibilities we do not." "That troubles me," I admitted. "She is going to struggle in your world." "Perhaps. Or perhaps she is what our world needs to become." The mother paused. "We have been considering something. A risk, but one that might be necessary." "What kind of risk?" She looked at me intently. "The genetic diversity you have provided is good, but it is still limited. We need more sources, other humans with compatible blood. That means returning to your world, hunting carefully, bringing back those who can continue what you started." My heart began to pound. "You are going to kidnap more people. We are going to save our species," she said flatly, "by any means necessary, and you are going to help us. You have the best understanding of your people. You can identify those who might be compatible, who might be convinced or compelled to assist us. You want me to be complicit in more abductions. I want you to help us survive," she said, "and in return, I will give you something you have wanted since the day you arrived." "What?" "A chance to save your people." I froze. "What do you mean?" The mother gestured, and the air shimmered. An image formed, showing ships far from my island prison. Human ships, research vessels, exploration craft, all moving through waters that glowed with the wrong kind of light. "They are coming closer," she said. "Your people have begun to detect the dimensional anomalies our island creates. Within a year, perhaps 2, they will find us. And when they do, when they see what we are and what we have done, what do you think will happen?" "War," I whispered. "Exactly. Your people will see monsters. They will attack. We will defend ourselves. Thousands will die on both sides. But if we move first, if we carefully select individuals rather than waiting for confrontation, we can avoid that bloodshed. You can help us choose who to approach. You can act as mediator. You can build a bridge between our species." It was a devil's bargain wrapped in humanitarian clothing. But as I looked at Mira and her siblings, as I thought of the healthy children who would die if the Sirens were wiped out, as I imagined the human sailors who would be slaughtered in a war they could not win, I saw the terrible logic in it. If I refuse, then we do it without you, clumsily, desperately. And the bloodshed will be worse. But if you help, if you guide us, we might achieve this with minimal suffering. We might create something new. A future where both our peoples survive. I wanted to refuse. Every moral fiber in my body screamed that this was wrong. But I had already crossed so many lines. I was already complicit. And if I was honest with myself, part of me wanted to see what could be built from this horror. If something good could come from my captivity, if these children could grow into something better than their mothers, did I not have a responsibility to try? "I will do it," I said, "but I have more conditions." She smiled, triumphant. "Name them." "The children will be taught both languages, both cultures. They will understand humanity as more than prey. Any humans we approach must be given real choices, not just compulsion through magic. And if this works, if we build this bridge, eventually I want the option to see my own world again. Even if I cannot stay." She considered. All agreed except the last. "We will discuss that if we reach that point." It was the best I was going to get. So I began the work of betraying my own species for the slim hope of saving both. The mothers taught me to use the scrying pools, to look into the world I had left behind, and identify individuals with the genetic markers that sang to siren magic. It was disturbing how easy it was. I would see someone, feel a resonance through the marks on my skin, and know they were compatible. We found them everywhere. A ship captain in the Mediterranean, a marine biologist in Japan, a fisherman in Chile, each one carrying that ancient genetic echo, each one a potential savior for the Sirens, and a potential victim. We took 3 in the first wave, all drawn by carefully crafted storms and songs. I was there to greet them when they woke on the beach, to explain in a language they understood, to try to make the horror less horrifying. 2 accepted their fate with varying degrees of grace. The 3rd tried to kill himself rather than submit. We stopped him, but the despair in his eyes haunted me. More children were conceived, more eggs laid, more healthy newborns hatching and growing at their accelerated rate. The population was recovering slowly but measurably. The mothers were pleased. But I saw the cost in the eyes of my fellow prisoners, and I saw the way Mira watched me, her expression unreadable, as though she understood I was making terrible choices for complicated reasons. She found me one evening at the edge of the jungle, staring out at the violet sea. "Father," she said, using the title naturally now, "why do you look so sad when the mothers celebrate?" "Because celebration does not erase sin," I said without thinking. She sat beside me, her young face thoughtful. "Do you regret coming here? Regret us? It is complicated," I said. "I did not choose this, but you exist now. You are real. And I cannot regret that lives exist, even if I regret how they came to be." She was quiet for a moment. "The older Sirens say, you are teaching us to be weak, that mercy and compassion are chains that will destroy us. What do you think?" "I think survival without morality is not worth achieving. I think a species that can only exist through cruelty will eventually destroy itself regardless. You are living proof of that. Your mothers nearly went extinct because they could not see beyond their own arrogance." She looked at me with those 2 old eyes. "Are we going to be like them?" "That depends on you," I said, "on all of the children. You have a choice they did not give themselves. You can learn from their mistakes, or you can repeat them. I hope you choose wisely. What would you choose?" "If you were me, I would choose to be better than my parents," I said. "Both of them." She smiled faintly, then reached out and took my hand. Her skin was warmer than her mother's, less alien. "I will try," she said. "I promise I will try." It was such a small moment, but it felt like hope. The seasons passed. Those seasons in that place bore little resemblance to Earth's natural cycles. The children grew into adolescence, then young adulthood. More humans were brought to the island. Some were kept as I had been. Others, those less compatible, were studied and released with their memories altered. The Sirens were learning subtlety, learning to interact with humanity without immediate violence. It was progress, however tainted. And then came the night everything changed. I was sleeping when the alarm songs began, a sound like glass shattering across every frequency. I rushed from my chamber to find chaos. The mothers were gathered at the scrying pools, their faces twisted with fury and fear. The central mother saw me and gestured sharply. "Look!" In the water I saw a fleet of ships, massive military vessels approaching the dimensional boundary that hid the island. They were equipped with technologies I did not recognize, devices that crackled with energy similar to siren magic. "Your people have learned more than we anticipated," the mother said. "They have found a way to breach the veil. They will be here within hours, and they are not coming to talk." I saw the weapons on those ships, the soldiers, the look of determination on the faces visible through the scrying. This was an extermination fleet. Someone had discovered the Sirens' existence and decided they were too dangerous to let live. "We have to stop them," I said desperately. "If they attack, if you retaliate, it will be a massacre on both sides." The mothers looked at me with alien calculation. "We could stop them," one said. The full power of our songs could tear those ships apart, drown every soul aboard. It would send a message. No, another mother said surprisingly, it would send a declaration of war. One fleet would become 10. We would be hunted to extinction. We must negotiate, I said. Let me try to communicate with them. I can explain. They will not listen, the central mother said, but perhaps we can force them to. What do you mean? She turned to me fully, her expression unreadable. The ritual of the binding. It has not been performed in 1,000 years. It requires a willing male of compatible blood to merge his essence with the world tree, to become a living conduit between worlds. He would have power beyond imagining, the ability to speak across dimensions, to enforce peace through sheer presence, but the cost is permanent transformation. You would cease to be human. You would become something else, something between. You would be saying, I die, not die. Change, ascend, become the bridge you have been building. It is the only way to stop what is coming. The children will need guidance for generations. The humans will need proof that cooperation is possible. You are the only one who can be both. I looked around the chamber at the faces watching me, the mothers with their cold calculation, the younger Sirens with their fear, and Mira, standing in the doorway, her expression devastated because she understood what they were asking, what they always planned to ask. This was always the end game, I said. You were always going to ask this of me. We hoped it would not be necessary, the central mother said, but we prepared for the possibility. The marks we gave you, they were not just for breeding. They were the first stage of the transformation. You have been becoming a bridge since the day you arrived. And if I refuse, then we fight, we die, or we win and become the monsters you have been trying to prevent. Either way, everything you have worked for is lost. Mira stepped forward. Father, please, there has to be another way. There is not, I said gently, because I could see the truth now. This was always where it was leading. Every choice, every compromise, building to this moment. I looked at her and saw tears on her inhuman face. Teach them, I said. Teach your siblings. Teach the next generation. Be better than what came before. Be the bridge when I cannot. She nodded, unable to speak. I turned to the mothers. How do we begin? They led me to the world tree, to the chamber at its heart where the walls pulsed with ancient power. The ritual was complex, involving songs that harmonized with my heartbeat, liquids that burned going down, cuts that bled more than blood. The pain was extraordinary, but through it all I held on to one thought. Maybe something good could come from this. Maybe horror could birth hope. The transformation took hours, or days, or years. Time lost meaning as my body rewrote itself at the cellular level. The marks on my skin spread, became part of me, connected me to the tree, and through it to the dimensional fabric itself. I felt my consciousness expand, touch the fleet approaching, touch the minds of the soldiers and scientists aboard. They were terrified, determined, convinced they were saving humanity from an existential threat. I reached out through the veil and spoke, not with words, but with pure meaning transmitted directly into their thoughts. I showed them the Sirens not as monsters, but as people. I showed them the children, the progress, the potential for coexistence. I showed them my own transformation and offered myself as proof that cooperation was possible. Some recoiled in horror, but others listened, and in the command ship, a woman with graying hair and determined eyes made a choice. She ordered the fleet to halt, to wait, to give negotiation a chance. It was not peace, but it was not war. It was the fragile beginning of something unprecedented, as I felt my human form complete its transition into something else, something vast and strange and powerful. I realized I would never know how it ended. I was becoming timeless, eternal, a consciousness spread across dimensions. I would be here forever, watching, guiding, unable to participate directly, but able to nudge, to whisper, to maintain the bridge between species. Mira was the last thing I saw with human eyes, standing at the base of the tree, looking up at me with gratitude and sorrow. And then I was the tree and the island, and the song and the bridge, and the warning and the promise, forever and always, the father of their return, the human who became something more to save both his species and theirs, trapped in transformation, wondering if salvation and damnation were ultimately the same thing.